ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wildcast. I'm your host, Calvin Coyles, and I'm joined by the rather remarkable Simone Canego, author, speaker, educator, healer, transformational coach, all of those good things. And I'm really excited to talk about the journey of family, the journey of what was really, profiled in her really incredible book, which is The Extraordinary Unordinary You. And I think we're going to have a really wonderful conversation. Just reading the bio, Simone, you are very different to anybody else that I think I would have come in contact with. And I think that's a really beautiful compliment. And I think it's very authentic to who you are. And just in the brief moment we spent already together, I'm very excited to see where this conversation goes. So Simone, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, nice. So let's jump in and let's start, I think, with the backstory here. In reading a bit about your journey, I was like, this can't be right. I was reading about you going from being a CPA, a chartered practicing accountant, to then going, actually, it's not about the numbers, it's about people. Okay, that's one career shift. And then becoming a teacher. And then going from that place as well to now being an author and a speaker, obviously, as well. And in that process, having 3 children that you birth and then adopting 3 other children as well, and now writing books, like that is an unbelievable, that is a story, that's a fiction book in and of itself. So give us the backstory of how you came to be here on this call today. Where did this journey start, and what's been some of those sort of really pivotal and life-changing moments along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I definitely did not take a linear path to figuring out my passion and figuring out my life. But that's the whole point, right? Like I'm a big believer in that it's okay to change your mind. And I started off, as you said, in accounting. And the reason I went into accounting is because I was planning on going to medical school and I failed organic chemistry. And that kind of ended my, that kind of career path. So what I was good at math. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go into accounting, and I didn't love it. And I was fortunate that I had a very supportive spouse. I got married at 21. We've been married we've been married 28 years now. So do the math.
Congratulations. That's incredible. Well done.
Thank you. Celebrating the big 50 next March.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but I think that we sometimes get stuck in this pattern where we feel like we have to stay because that's what we're supposed to do. And for me, that wasn't the way I wanted to live my life. And I had to figure out what I wanted. So that's a big thing for me. It's not that I can't do something. It's asking myself, do I want to do it? And so I tried quite a few things. And what I realized was that where my passion, is sharing my stories. And with 6 kids and a husband of 28 years, I have a lot of stories.
Yeah.
But understanding that not just sharing the shiny moments, that's what we see on social media, but sharing the struggles as well, because I think that's how we connect with people. And that's kind of how I that side path of going into teaching, which was an amazing point in my life. And I thought, I have 6 kids, might as well be a teacher. So I went back to school to be a teacher.
Be actually cheaper than sending them to daycare. Just set up your own school and be better.
Except for they don't believe me. So I had to send them to yeah, exactly. Right. So I was, a teacher for other children. And unfortunately, the way salaries work at some schools and where I was paying my babysitter more than I made because I had 6 kids that were going to different schools. And when you're gone that many hours in the day, you need someone to care for your kids. So it didn't work out the way I, planned it inside my mind. Yep. So, and then again, that's what I realized, that what I love is talking to people, sharing my stories, getting up on stage. Never in my life would I have thought that I would like public speaking, but I love it. I love to be able to try to inspire people, because if you can change one person's mind, if you can help one person feel differently about something, then you have changed the world. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
Wow. Tell me the speaking side of things. I know the book came out last year, so congratulations on that. And for everyone listening at home, obviously it is available in Australia. You can go to Amazon. We'll put the show notes. We'll put the link for Amazon in Australia up in the show notes. You guys can grab a copy of the book. The book obviously was about a year ago, but were you speaking before then?
Yeah, I was speaking. The way I started speaking actually was through a volunteer role. I I was volunteering for an organization called the Jewish Federations of North America.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
as part of that role, I would go to different communities and share my story, share stories about my life and why I was
Yeah.
involved in philanthropy.
Yeah.
And that kind of was like the door that opened for me, that when I started stepping up on stages and loving it, and then realizing, wait, you can actually, you can actually do this for a career. This
Yeah.
is, and you can really make a difference with your words.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how that all started.
Well, effectively just a higher paid teacher, isn't it? Really, that's what it is. You're speaking to multiple classes at a time. They're just not all kids.
Yeah, it's funny. I had someone say that to me yesterday, actually. They're like, as a speaker, you're an educator. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
educating, groups of people at a time that,
Yeah.
you don't have to tell them to go get the tissue when you're,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're talking to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, look, I think there's a real wisdom that I want to just highlight for people in that. I was speaking to somebody yesterday about the importance of getting your start through volunteering and through charity work. For me as a speaker, going from high school where I was studying art and performance and drama to then moving into a corporate world, I got a lot of my first speaking opportunities through Rotary organizations when I was part of that group, and then a variety of other charity and nonprofit groups as well. So while I was in my early 20s doing sort of charity work at university, I would travel around the world doing speaking and professional seminars, right? That's effectively what I did. That experience I could never have got professionally or corporate. I had to come through volunteerism. So I think that's a really important thing for everyone that's aspiring to be a speaker. If you want an opportunity to do that, volunteering and doing it in through community groups is probably one of the most effective ways of being able to get an opportunity to speak, because they're dying for people that are communicators and that can sort of put a message out there. I think that's very important. That's a big leap, though. I imagine, and I'm really interested to unpack how a wife and a mother of 6 and now a business owner makes the shift from being, hey, I'm a teacher and I've got obviously a regular income, admittedly maybe not a great income, but I've got a regular income, to make the leap to setting up your own business and then becoming a speaker and an educator. That's not an easy roll of the dice. And when I made that shift, it was big for me, and I didn't have any kids. So I can only appreciate what it's like for you and that family. So talk to me about what that transition was like for your family and what that was in terms of the conversations that you guys had.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a big leap, but it's something I say to my kids all the time. You have one life, you should be happy. You should be doing something that you're passionate about.
Mm.
And our oldest is 25, and we definitely say that to him all the time. Our next child, who's 21, she is still figuring it out. She's a senior in college, and she had one career path in mind, and that might not be the path for her. So we're like, try things. Like, again, it's okay to change your mind. Just get out there and do something so you can figure out if you like it or not. Yeah, but fortunately, I was going to say had, but I still have. I have like the most supportive family and kids as well. Like, anytime I've said, this is what I'm going to do, or I'm going to be gone for this, or I'm really going to be gone for a couple of weeks doing this, they've always been super supportive. And I think that really has made all the difference for me. I have a lot of women say to me, oh, I could never do that. Well, do you want to do that? No, I would never want to do that. Okay, well, then that's a different story. If you don't want to do it, then that's not even a conversation. But it does take, you have to take risks, right? Like, but I'm not saying you just go out and one day and say, I'm quitting this job and I'm starting this. No, you create a plan, you put in the work behind it, you figure out how is it possible to make this happen versus just, cutting the cord and moving forward. I mean, I definitely had a plan in place of how I was gonna how I was gonna make things work. And the path from working as a teacher going into medical sales, to me, that was, I had more flexibility. I had a bigger salary. There were a lot of positives from it. And guess what? Some of the people I met while I was doing that part of my life in terms of a career, I have great stories from, and stories that I can share and use to inspire other people.
Right. Awesome. So you went from teaching into a sales performance role while you're building your speaking career, and perfect. I love that transition. I think that's fantastic. Talk to me about the journey with your kids and how much that's influenced your work today. Amazing to have 3 children and then to adopt 3 more as well, to have 6 kids. I think that's remarkable. I say this because I've got a younger sister, Caitlin, who's 27 now. She'll be 28 in January. And so my mum and dad had me and Kate. My mum remarries. My dad remarries. My dad now has a little boy as well. So I've got a little brother, Brandon. And my mum couldn't have any more kids, but her and her husband decided to adopt a lot of children through the Department of Child Protection here in Australia. And so we've had a variety of foster kids through my sort of adolescent years. And then we eventually adopted 2 little boys permanently, Nicholas and LeBron. So I went from having me and my sister, so just 2 of us, to now having 5 of us. I went from having 1 sister to having 3 brothers and a sister. And there's just such a tremendous richness that comes from having, particularly for the boys we've adopted, every day you're reminded that there's a real blessing in being able to be of service, and there's the opportunity to provide a home for those boys that they wouldn't have had in any other environment. So I think there's a real richness in that as well. So I'd love to hear, for you, just even having your first 3 children, then making the decision to adopt 3 more, what that journey was like and what inspired that.
So it's funny because when we told our friends that we decided to adopt, and they're like, okay, first of all, you already have 3 kids. Do you really need more?
Yeah.
That was the first question. The second question was, you can have more kids, right? Why not just have another baby? And that really wasn't even part of our discussion. The discussion was that we wanted to adopt, that we felt, still feel, trust me, we're not adopting any more children. Minivan's full. I said that before.
Yeah.
But that we can be that family that, it doesn't matter where a child is from, what a child looks like, what their background is. It's about being family, and family crosses all lines. So when we actually adopted our son Noah, he's from South Korea, and he was a baby. He was 4 months old when he came home. Again, our friends were like, we still don't get it. We still don't get it. And then we got his photo, and on his photo, he was dressed in this beautiful white gown, and there was a number that identified him. That was it. There was a number. There wasn't a name. There was a number. And so when we sent the picture out to our friends to say this, meet our new son. And that's when a few of them called and said, we get it. We didn't get it before, but we get it now. And, that was a pretty impactful moment to see how what was happening in our lives could impact the lives of our friends, our family. Everybody around us was impacted by our journey. And I think that's such an important point and such an important thing to see, is that when we make choices, it doesn't just affect us, it affects the people around us. And when we make positive choices, wow, the ripple effect is amazing.
Yeah.
So we we brought Noah home, and he's an amazing kid, and it was chaos from day one. He was a big crier, cried 16 out of our 18 hours on our flight from Seoul to Chicago. Oh yes. But you know what? It didn't matter. Like this was our family, right? And so the conversation came up, do we want to do this again? And each time our family took a vote. Now, obviously the little ones were always just like, yay, another sibling. They didn't really get it. But as they got older, they really did understand. And so we adopted our son, Ari, who was 4.5 years old, from Ethiopia. And that was a really fascinating transition, because 4.5 years old, like you have 4.5 years of a life before.
Yeah, you're a little person now.
Yeah, he's a real person. He has skills, he has thoughts, he has ideas. And, it was, and he's 17 now, and he's truly amazing. But to kind of see the world through his eyes, he didn't know electricity. So flipping the light switch 5 million times. And he had one word, and the word was mom. And he said mom thousands of times every day. And it was amazing. Honestly, looking back now, it just makes me laugh, because now he's like, too cool for everything, so yeah, he's like, hey mom, hey, what's up? And even after Ari, we're at 5 kids now, and we said, let's do it one more time. Actually, we made that decision when we were at the orphanage, because there were just so amazing, so many amazing kids just waiting for a family to love them. And again, we knew we could be that family. So we had our older girls with us when we went to bring Ari home. And they wanted to bring all the kids home, of course. So we said, okay, we're going to do this one more time. And we did. And we requested an older boy again. And we have Millie, our she was 2.5 years old. She was a little girl and truly amazing. She was saying the other day, she goes, "You asked for a boy and you got me. How do you feel about that?" And I was like, yeah, blessing. Trust me. Like you're the grand finale. You're the final piece to the puzzle. You're exactly
Wow.
who we were waiting for. So
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That's such a remarkable. It's staggering. It's staggering. 6 kids is a huge amount. Is there a point where it gets easier in the sense of, one kid, it might be difficult, 2 kids a bit more, like I've heard people say after 3 it's all the same, right? Like is those sort of wives' tales accurate, or what's the dynamic of the family like?
Yeah, I think that 1 was the hardest. Then 2 was fine. 3 was hard again. And after that, it was all kind of, when we got to 4 and 5, you're like zone defense, like, how do we get this done? But honestly, the older kids would help out, right?
Yeah.
And even tonight, like my son who's 15, he needed help with some math, and I was in the middle of sending out some emails. So my 18-year-old is still home. She goes back to college in a few days, and I was like, "Can you go help Noah with his math?" And she's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we're really fortunate. We have this really. Trust me, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. Like we're a regular family. Like
Sure.
they fight like cats and dogs, and at the end of the day, they love each other. So that's what matters.
Yeah. Talk to me about the dynamics in like with bringing your it was Noah was your first adopted son. So he was obviously still an infant, right? 4 months old. So there's that full time to imprint, right, with your family. For your other 2 children that have come on board, being 4.5 and 2.5, as you said, they've already got the foundations of their personality, and that was cultivated well and truly outside, right? So what was it like outside of obviously flicking the light switch? What was it like in terms of those cultural differences as well? Because obviously you've got kids that are born in North America, interacting, engaging now with their family, which is from Korea or from Ethiopia. So talk me a little bit about just the cultural differences that are just inherent in that as well, and what you guys have to navigate as a family about that.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of differences, but the way we always looked at things is, how do we connect? How are we the same versus how are we different? And yeah, celebrating our differences. That to me is one of the most important things, is not saying, "Oh, we don't see color." We completely see color. Like, to say that you don't see color is kind of an insult to people, because we're all different, right? We want to see each other as unique, as individuals. And so we really wanted to make sure that we always had open communication, that if they ever had a question, we made books, pictures of, especially for Ari and Millie, because they had members of their birth family that are still alive. And we wanted to make sure that they understood and that they never felt uncomfortable in having a conversation with us. Why, actually, Millie one time said, "Why me? Why did you choose me?" And I said, "It doesn't really work that way." But, so there's constant communication in our house, probably to the point where they're like, "Oh my gosh, do we need to talk about this again?" Now it's in a book, so we don't have to talk about it. They can just read it.
Yeah.
But, I think that we wanted to make sure to honor each child, each birth family. Again, the hardest decision, I can't even imagine making that decision, to have to relinquish your child. And, especially looking at Ari and Millie, it was definitely, Ari's birth mother had passed away. For Millie, both of her parents had passed away. So how do you, when you're talking about situations where you're thinking about, where does your food come from the next day? Do you have enough water? These are big conversations. So, making sure that they understand, the choices that were made, and being open to be able to go back later and kind of see and understand and learn from their they're because they're still their family in Ethiopia, and their country, and all of these things that I think should be, it's part of who they are. So it's so important for us that they understand that, and they don't feel like
Yeah.
it's not okay to talk about it. Like, we're here to
Yeah.
talk about it.
Sure. Have you, if you haven't, will you potentially at some point take the family to Ethiopia for a trip, and then also to South Korea as well as part of that process? That's something you guys have thought about or done already?
Yeah, we haven't done it yet, but we have talked to them about it. Millie and Ari aren't ready yet. They both said that they both have different reasons of why they don't feel comfortable yet.
Sure.
I truly hope that at some point they will, whether it's with me or whether it's by themselves, however they feel comfortable doing that. I think
Yeah.
it's really important. And then
Yeah.
Noah, it's a different situation because Ethiopia, we know who the family is. We actually, until the kids are 18, we have to send letters each year to the birth family. But for
Right.
Noah, it's a closed adoption. So it's not. So what I do is every year, I'm not required to send anything. But when I send Ari's letter, I send photos of Noah for them to put in the file. Who knows what happens, but I've asked them to put it in the file in South Korea so that if his, birth parents want to see what's happening, that it's there. And I hope that when he turns 18, that they will want to connect, because again, it's not about a selfish thing for me. It's about the more people that love you, the better, right? And
Yeah.
to have a world where you can, you can have all of those pieces and kind of really truly understand. So I'm hoping that when he turns 18, that he will want to find out, and also that they will want to meet him as well.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. Talk to me about how much your faith in Judaism has played. Judaism, I pronounced that correctly? I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Judaism. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How much your faith has played a role in that, and also as well, what was the reception like within the Jewish faith
Mm.
for your community when you said, "Hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to adopt a little boy, and then a little boy and a little girl." What was that like, and how much has that played a role in the decision to do this?
So I'll start by saying that I'm not a super religious person, but I
Okay.
am I'm very active within the Jewish community. I'm big on philanthropy. I'm big on taking care of other people. And one of the big pieces of the Jewish religion is something called tikkun olam, which means repairing the world. And so I kind of feel like that's a really big guiding factor in everything I do. When I think about things, it's about, is this making things better or worse? And, obviously there's days where it's like, no matter what, I can't fix it. But,
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that we should move forward in our lives thinking about how we can make the world a better place. So, in terms of, it's funny because my husband actually wasn't Jewish, and he we were married for 20 years, and after 20 years, and it was never a conversation. We were raising the kids Jewish. In the Jewish religion, when the mother is Jewish, the children are considered Jewish. And so it just wasn't a discussion. I feel like religion is a very personal thing, and you should be able to believe what you want to believe without anybody pressuring you into something else.
Yep.
And so after 20 years of marriage, we had gone on a trip to Israel, and I think it was the first time he felt like he was part of a community. We went with a big group of people, and he felt really good and really comfortable. And
Mm.
at the end of the trip, he said, I want to convert. And I was like, are you okay? And he did. So he converted after 20 years of marriage. He studied for a year with our rabbi, and he converted right before our oldest daughter's bat mitzvah, which is basically a ceremony at 13. It's kind of like a coming of age where you are now in adulthood. And so he converted right before then. So he actually became an adult when she became an adult, which is kind of comical, but within the
Wow.
eyes of the Jewish religion. Yeah. So it was a really
Wow.
cool experience. So, in terms of how the community responded to us, yeah, they responded really positively. And I think because, I can't say why, but we tend to get we have had negative moments, not within the Jewish community, but we've had negative moments. And
Sure.
but but in general, I'm really big on open communication. So when someone has something to say, I have something to say back, and it's usually trying to educate. I'm not going to be mean, but I want to understand why someone would have something negative to say. Explain to me what you mean by
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I do all that.
Yeah.
So we've, again, but there's always ups and downs with everything, right?
Course.
But I mean,
Of course.
we've been really fortunate to be embraced by our community, our friends. And sometimes I feel like it really has opened the eyes of the people around us to see the world in a different way. And wow, that's an honor, right? That's an honor. What more could I hope for?
Yeah, remarkable. I want to talk about your book, but I think we have been talking about the book without talking about the book, if that makes sense. I'd love to talk about the partnership that you have with your husband, in the sense that most couples in the world that we live in today struggle just to keep the relationship going, never mind to have children, never mind to then have children and then adopt more children and have 6 of them, and then still live lives. And then to even have the concept to talk or even mention the word philanthropy, unless you're a billionaire these days, seems just, I don't have time, energy, or effort, or money to do any of that. So talk to me about that union and that partnership. And what are some of the things that have allowed you guys to have, I think you said 28 years together?
28 years of marriage.
In marriage, 28 years together, 6 kids, and a life well lived. What does that look like, and what do you think is the things that have made the difference for you guys?
So I'll start with saying that, when I talk about philanthropy, I am not a billionaire. Philanthropy to me is giving what you can and making a difference within your corner of the world. So that's the first piece. So we are, I think that for us, what has always been really important, we're best friends. Being each other's best friend, I think, makes all the difference in the world, or at least it has for us. The other thing is that when either one of us wanted to do something, it wasn't about asking permission. For example, when I climbed a mountain, I was going to ask about
Mount Kilimanjaro in a second. Yes, you beat me to it.
Yes. So I didn't have to ask for permission. The way our conversations go is, I really think I want to do this. What do you think about it? And both of us have always been 100%. If this is what you want to do, if you're going to feel good about this, you should do it. And so I think we've never been jealous of each other. And I think that's another big piece. We're supportive of each other. There's, trust me, again, like everything else, like there's ups and downs. And I heard someone say one time that the reason their marriage lasted is neither the husband nor the wife wanted to get divorced at the same time. And that kind of made me laugh. That's not the way I look at our relationship. I just look at our relationship as always been very supportive, and that, there's always tough moments in any relationship, but looking at it as a moment and not like the defining moment, I think is really important. But yeah, we like chaos. We're good with,
obviously. Yeah.
And again, just really saying, hey, if this is what you want to do, you should do it. And nobody should have to give you permission to do it. If you're doing something good, I'm not saying bad things, but I'm saying if you're doing something good, you should be able to do it if you want to do it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Mount Kilimanjaro. So how many kids did you have at this point when you decided to climb Mount Kilimanjaro?
6 kids.
Oh, all 6? Holy shit.
6.
Wow. I just assumed this must have been like maybe 1 or 2 kids in, not all 6 of them. Right. Okay. So, wow. So you're a wife and a mother, and obviously a human being, and you've got a job and you're living your best life, and you decide, okay, cool, now I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. What is that? Just something that randomly popped into your mind during a day while you saw a hill, or is this always been a lifetime goal? Did someone dare you to do it? Like, how does that even come into somebody's mind? And especially in the mindset of all the other things that you've got in your head as well.
Yeah. So it's actually, I joke that it fell into my lap, but we had a friend of ours had climbed it the year before, and with an organization called the Live Strong Foundation. So again, it's about philanthropy. So raising money and awareness for cancer patients. And so he said to my husband, hey, they're going to put a team together for next year. Are you interested? My husband's 6'5". Like the idea of sleeping in a tiny tent for 10 days was just not like he likes to go camping, but not like that. So
Yeah.
so basically he said, no, thank you. Why don't you call Simone? And I got the call, and I have to tell you that one of the big driving forces, and we haven't talked about this yet, was that I have done some amazing things in my life, but that was a turning point for me about believing in myself. So I've tried many things, I've done many things, but there was always that doubt, constant, that chatter in my head saying, you shouldn't do that. You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to finish that. And for me, it was a really big a moment of saying, you can do this. If you put in the work, commit to it. Yeah, I'm not an athlete. You can see I'm not an athlete. This is not, but I really wanted this, and I really wanted to accomplish it for myself, for my kids, for my family, for them to see that when you put your mind to something and you put in the work, obviously there are limitations to everything. So I'm not just saying, oh, I'm going to go to the moon tomorrow, but that you can accomplish it. And that was kind of my mindset moving forward. And I put in a lot of work to this. I worked out every day for 6 months, really getting myself in shape and getting my mind in shape too, to say, you got this. And I can't tell you how many people would say to me, Simone, do you really think you're going to make it to the top? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, okay, how am I going to answer this? No, I think I'm going to make it halfway. That's why I'm doing this. You're like, what? So it's hard when it's not just my own mind saying it, but other people. But it really was a turning point for me and a big accomplishment, because
Congratulations.
I really thank you. And I think it was great for my kids to see that, hey, yeah, she did this. Pretty cool.
Huge.
Yeah.
I've got a little one on the way in a couple of weeks. In fact, she could come at any moment.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My first child.
Exciting.
It is very exciting. I feel much better about knowing that you've got 6 kids and that you climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm about to tell my wife, who's sitting next to me, I'm thinking about climbing Everest a couple of months' time. No, I'm only joking. How much, and you've seen this obviously in your life as a mother and also as a teacher, how much do you think your example matters as opposed to your rhetoric, right? Like there's an element, especially when you have 6 kids, it's hard to be able to, show up in the way that you did maybe for the first child consistently across all 6 as well. And so I'd love to get some just good quality parenting guidance on that one, in terms of how much is the importance of an example, and then also painting an example of, hey, your standard should be even higher than what my standards are as well, and having that conversation when the kids are ready for it as well. I'm interested to get your take.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I can say things a million times, but if I'm actually not doing it, it doesn't matter. So for example, one of the things that I have struggled with weight my entire life, and I used to be really hard on myself about it. I used to talk negatively to myself about myself, and I would do it in front of my children. I didn't realize I was doing it, but to my children, I would always say, you look amazing. You're so beautiful. You look amazing in that dress, whatever I would say. And one day my daughter, who's 18 now, said to me, you got to stop. And I was like, what? She's like, you are so hard on yourself. You say these things to yourself all the time. How am I going to be able to love myself when you can't love yourself? So, yeah, right. So that was a big moment of, it's so important how I can say to her all the time, oh, you look amazing. You look beautiful. But if I'm not treating myself with respect, how is she going to respect herself? So for me, it's really about how we behave, how we move forward with things, how we treat other people. So I can say, hey, you should be nice to that person. But if they see me being mean to somebody, that's not a great example. So for me, I realized maybe not early enough that it was so much about the example that we are for our children, for them to see and not just to hear it.
Yeah, 100%. Wow, amazing. Talk to me a little bit about the book. What are some of the things that really stand out in the book for people that are watching? And also as well, you talk me through the title of the book, The Extraordinary Unordinary You. I quite like the title, but it's quite intriguing as well. So what's the reference point of the narrative around that?
So I'll start with the title of the book. it really comes from that I used to talk about myself. I'm just an ordinary girl. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm just Rob's wife. So, and then when I stopped saying I'm just anything, I'm not just anything. I'm unique. I am unordinary, right? We're all unique. We're all different from each other. And so this book isn't just about me. It's about everyone, right? Because we're all unique. We're all unordinary, and we all have extraordinary things that we bring to the world. We just need to realize it, but all of us do. And I think that was kind of how I came up with the title, and that's why it was so important for me too. So I've had people say unordinary. I've never heard that before. I'm like, well, it's extraordinary.
Yeah.
It's it's just a different way of saying it, but it really comes from because I used to, the way I used to limit myself with the words I used about myself, saying I'm just an ordinary girl. And again, we're all unique. But the book really, I talk about our kids' adoption journeys. I talk about my husband's conversion. I talk about my 18-year-old daughter when she was diagnosed with Crohn's, and how,
Oh,
that was a really hard time. It still is
yeah.
a hard time. There's still lots of moments that are difficult. And then the way we see the world, the way I see the world, when we look at raising a multicultural family. And
Yeah, you have the United Nations at home. It's
yeah,
you've got
yeah.
to know.
And really kind of my thoughts on how we should be treating other people, and
Mm,
and
mm.
and why I have such a hard time understanding why we just can't be kind to each other. I mean, when we look around the world right now, wow, kindness goes a really, really long way. And I
Yeah.
also talk about ridiculous stories like the time that rats ate my minivan. Yes, I am. Again, just like I say that Simone Canego I'm the only Simone Canego in the world. I don't know of anybody else who has had their minivan totaled by rats eating the seats, but I did, and that's a story in the book. And
Wow.
when I was younger, I would have been really embarrassed by that, but honestly, I think it's really funny. I got in the car one day and I'm looking around, and it looks like there's popcorn all over the seats, and no, it's not popcorn. It's the inside foam of the seats mixed in with rat shit. And
Wow.
and at first I was like, oh, it's no big deal. I'll just get it cleaned. And then the insurance company said, well, why don't you drive it over? I'm like, I'm not getting back in there. Are you kidding me? There's like a rat
Exactly.
or like 20 in there. Like, it might jump on my head. And so they towed it. And then the insurance adjuster called me and said, yeah, we can't fix this. He's like, it's going to cost more to fix the seats. So I actually have to total your minivan because rats ate your seats.
Holy shit. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Far out. Another reason why I don't want to buy a minivan, for this exact reason. I'm going to use this as my reference point.
That's so funny.
Fantastic. I love all of that. And I think the reference points in those stories, I think, is something that you'd never be able to read in another book. I think I've read a lot of books, and I'm in the process of writing my fourth at the moment. And one of the reference points I've always got is don't write something that can't be uniquely written from you, right? Like, there's enough stuff out there that's effectively just a regurgitation, but I think what's really unique is your experience and your story. And I just want to compliment you, Simone, on this. Whether it's lost on you or not, I don't know. But I think that from what I've felt on this call is that you and your husband have had the courage to really live a truly an untraditional but an authentic life, and to do so unapologetically. Now, I think if more people lived like that, and it's done not from a place of arrogance or from grandiose, but rather just from a place of, hey, we want to do this because it's going to make us happy, and we think it's going to make other people's lives happy as well. And I think if everyone used that as their North Star when they're making decisions, fuck, the world would be a completely different place.
Yeah.
Less about showmanship and more about wholesomeness, and just going, hey, this is something that we can do that's going to be good. It feels like the right thing to do. We're going to go and do it. And when I think back actually on some of the pivotal experiences of my life, they've often come from doing what I just felt was the right thing to do, which is, for no other reason than it's just the right thing. It's a good thing to do. So let's just do that good thing. And then let's see what happens from that. And I think that that's a force multiplier in the best possible ways. So, congratulations to you on all the things you've done. One thing that I'd love to get just one final reference point from you. You talked about for you and your husband around like loving chaos and just being comfortable in that zone, right? Responsibility is something that is very easy to add on, but it's very difficult to get rid of. And, obviously for yourself, in all the hats that you've worn and the ones that you still continue to wear, there's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders for you and for your husband. And obviously you don't anticipate when you have 6 kids that one of your children might get Crohn's disease, or there might be, accidents, or you're going to climb a mountain. And so you go, well, if you sort of weigh up all of the decisions eventually in your life, you might not choose to accept as much responsibility, right? You're like, well, I've got to live with this for the rest of my life. But that's the nature of being a parent, right? And so I'm interested to know how you and your husband deal with, as a family, that burden of responsibility. And we can call it responsibility, go to duty, however you want. How you deal with that as a family, particularly in those difficult moments, because it's all relative, right? Like to a single mom out there with 2 kids, she's going to feel exactly the same as what you might with a family of 6, but with 2 parents. Like, everyone's got their own struggles, and their struggles all feel big and overwhelming at times as well. So what guides you and your family through those difficult times, especially with the magnitude of responsibility that you have?
A big part of it is our family. So being able to have people to rely on, and our friends are part of our extended family. So when there are really difficult moments, that we're not walking through this alone. And trust me, there are plenty of people that do walk through these issues alone. And it is very extremely difficult, and to even imagine how people navigate situations that, are really, really difficult. But for us, it really has been that we can rely on each other. We are not afraid to use our words. Again, I've said it before, the open communication part, it really kind of never hiding things. So, we say it how it is, that whether it was talking about our kids' adoptions, or talking about Olivia's diagnosis, or when our son Noah was bit by a poisonous snake and was in the ICU for 3 nights. Yes, there's lots of stories. But it's all part of it. And you know what? Every moment is worth it. So it's not the things, what do they say? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But I truly believe that when you have all these hurdles they're bumps in the road. They're not boulders that you get stuck behind that you can't move forward. They really are just bumps in the road. And it does make you stronger. And it makes you, we have like a saying in our house that unless it's pulsating blood, just put a Band-Aid on it. Like, you don't need to, with child number 1, everything was a big deal. We sterilized everything. Child number 2, we had like that 5-second rule. Child number 3, we started saying, oh, wait, you put it in the garbage, you can take it back out. It's fine. So like these things that sometimes we make little things into really big deals. And sometimes when we have really big deals happening, we have to bring them back a little bit so that we can break them down into smaller pieces so that we can handle them. And I think that's what we do a lot of the times when we have some kind of struggle. We think about, okay, how do we move forward, and why are we doing this? And it does make us stronger as a family, especially as we go through the chaos we call life.
Yeah. Beautifully said. If our audience wants to find out more about you, Simone, and go and check out what you're doing, best place is to go to the website.
Yeah, go to my website, SimoneCanego.com, and you'll see all kinds of stuff on there. I have an active blog, and I just came out with my newsletter, another newsletter yesterday, where our son, who is 15, he is on the autism spectrum, and so he went to a summer camp this summer for kids who have ADHD or autism, and I talk about that in the newsletter because it was such an amazing experience for me, for him to say to me, the kids here are just like me, and I feel like I belong. Like, that to me was like, okay, we're there. We have like all the moments that we struggle with. This was like, whew, okay. So anyways, and I'm really big on telling those hard stories because, again, if I can help one person, it's worth sharing the struggles. So.
Wow. Well, we'll go and check that out, and I'll put all of that up in the show notes as well. So thank you so much for your time. And I encourage everyone to go and grab a copy of the book as well. So thank you for being with us on the show, Simone. I really appreciate it. For everyone that's watching and listening, please leave us a like, a comment, and a review wherever you're watching this or listening to this as well. And until we see you live or online again, be bold, have fun, go make an impact in the world, and we'll see you on the wild side.